everybody, welcome to the 90s podcast right here on the Becausemaybepodcast Network. Hope you're doing well today. And today, we have a little something different that, that we're going to do. Today, if you don't know, is episode 100 of the 90s podcast. Now, I do these in seasons, so it's season 11, episode 3, but officially, this is the 100th episode we've ever done of this podcast. I am proud of the work that I've done since 2017, so that's been, 3, 6, 7 years, the last 7 years that we've been doing this podcast. 100 episodes doesn't sound like much, and a lot of podcasts can get that done in a year or so, but, I like to take my time and do things right and everything like that. Plus, it's hard to line up people's schedules to talk with me, and I'm a one-man studio, and the researching really is a pain to do, especially when you have severe ADHD like I do. So, it's an excuse, but it's one I'm going with. But, joking aside, we've done 100 of these, we've had some wonderful people on, and I've got a mixture of everything, and I will go into that here when we get done at the end of the episode. But yeah, like I said, what I'm doing today is we've got 19 clips from our past that talk about the podcast. We've got a lot of music discussion in here, a little movie discussion in here, some video game discussion, some tangents. It's really good. I'm looking back and I'm very proud of what we've accomplished here. I'm proud of our listenership. I'm proud of the spread that we've got. I'm proud of our guests that we come on. And I appreciate every single person who has listened, downloaded, recommended, and so on and so forth. I appreciate you with all my heart. And I thank you for listening to my little labor of love. So, let's get started. So, our first clip is from our first episode, and it's me talking about what the then Because Maybe podcast was all about, and what our goals were, and what we were planning on doing for the future. So what is the Because Maybe podcast? I know you're all dying to know why you're probably going to be wasting the next hour of your time listening to. Right now, there is a glut of 90s nostalgia. I'm as guilty of it as anybody else is. The thing is, when you see it, it's usually memes and BuzzFeed lists, and it's written by someone who's maybe in their mid-20s, who wouldn't have really experienced that much of the 90s and 90s culture. They may have caught the tail end of it, fine, whatever, but not so much people who lived it. And that's not a criticism to anybody. I'm trying to be lighthearted, and I'm trying to keep everybody engaged as possible. So please don't think that as a criticism. But I read some of these lists, and I don't identify it with any of it. A lot of it is, hey, look at this TV show. Wasn't it great now? And then comparing it to some TV show that's not as good. Or cartoon. Or, just something small and saying, man, one thing's great in the old days. And yes, they were. But not in the way that people might think. The 90s was a different time to what things are now. The 90s, there's a lot of things that happen, not just in the pop culture world, but in the world as a whole. And that's one of the things I want to look at. I want to look at all aspects of the 90s, to document it, to go through, I'm going to try and keep it as lighthearted as possible, like I mentioned. I want to keep this entertaining. I'm trying not to go as too dark as possible. But, there are some things that we've changed as a society during the 90s, in a speed that we hadn't done in any other decade before. For example, at the beginning of the 90s, the idea that everybody who owned a computer could connect to each other and share information, share files, communicate, that was a pie-in-the-sky dream. That was unheard of. Nobody had ever thought of doing that. CDs that would play music is one thing, but having a DVD that would play movies on your it just, that kind of thing, that sounds inconsequential. Then we had music movements, political movements. We had things like grunge come out of the woodwork. We had this big rush of British pop culture from the mid to late 90s. We had this big glut of girl power. We had independent movies becoming the norm, independent music becoming what was listened to. The alternative scene became the mainstream. We had countries basically disintegrate under your very eyes. We had hip political leaders, whether you like what they are now or hate what they are now, and it was just a very different time. Everybody was more loose, and everybody was more accepting of a lot of things. Now, there were some things that we were still in the dark ages on, don't get me wrong, but at least for that period of time,
It was a different way of looking at things. It was different from our parents, which is every generation. But we are the generation that, you hear it all. We were the last to play outside and the first to get the smartphones. But not just that. We were the last people to understand why both of those things are important.
This clip, I'm joined by our very, very first guest, Gregory, who would go on to do many, many episodes with us. Thank you for coming on board, man. I appreciate it. We took a look at Groundhog Day, and we discussed the casting, because the casting could make the movie look so much different. The constant phone calls between Bill Murray and Danny Rubin kind of changed the script from a jokey joke laugh a minute to the introspective movie that we've got now.
Yeah, it's pretty deep.
So, but that might not have happened if the producers, or the production company, I should say, kind of got a different actor. Now, Andy McDowell was nailed on to play Rita. The only other person that was in consideration of all people was Tori Amos, which I didn't know she could act. I honestly didn't. I didn't know that.
I don't think that would have been a good choice, personally.
I can't see it myself.
I think it's Amos, but yeah, it just seems like McDowell was like perfect person for that.
Definitely. But here are a list of names that were considered for Phil Collins. Phil Collins.
Jeez.
That one was on purpose.
Okay.
Those are people who were for Phil Collins. It was, and remember, these guys were big in the early 90s, so if we look at them now and you judge them on 2017 versions, just remember, these guys were pretty huge in the early 90s. You had Alec Baldwin. I don't think that would have worked in the slightest.
No, I don't think he's animated enough, sarcastic enough.
Howie Mandel.
That might have worked.
Yeah, I just can't picture him as anything other than Bobby, though. I'm going to jump around because I'm going to get to the ones that I think would work last. Kevin Kline. Travolta.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Harrison Ford. Definitely not.
No, definitely not.
Mel Gibson.
Heck no.
No. Kevin Costner.
No.
But who I think might have worked if these guys were approached, and I'll tell you who I think was would have been the best one. Billy Crystal might have worked.
Hey, the groundhog. Will he see his shadow? I don't know. It's confusing to me.
Robin Williams.
Hey guys, you want to go see the groundhog? He's going to see a shadow. Oh, he's like, there I am. It's 6 more weeks. Yeah, that'd have been good.
Chevy Chase could have done it, I think.
Yep.
But I think if Bill Murray hadn't have done it, the best person to have stepped in would have been Steve Martin.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they're very
similar,
akin. Absolutely, yeah.
And I'll go so far as saying, and this is sacrilege, thinking of it, I think Steve Martin might have been a better choice to play Phil Connors, but that's the Phil Connors we see, which we wouldn't have got without Bill Murray, because Bill Murray insisted on certain scripting and character changes. And again, fair play to Harold Ramis and Danny Rubin that they were receptive to, because if Bill Murray says, I think my character should wear a green hat and dance the fandango, go ahead, man.
Yeah.
You know your character. You know what you're doing.
Right.
So, I mean, but like I said, just imagine Alec Baldwin. You can't do it, can you? I mean, no. you see this all the time. Well, certain people, audition for this role. You read a list, and it's like, you really thought you could get the part?
That would be like Robin Williams being in Rocky.
Yeah.
As Rocky Balboa.
Stallone as Phil Collins.
It's a groundhog, see his shadow or not, man.
Hey, Ned Frierson, how you doing? Hey, man.
He would have gone Rainbow style after like the fourth loop.
Yeah.
Adrian!
I'm a wrestling fan. I don't apologize for that. I didn't watch too much wrestling in the 90s because I thought it was dumb, but as I've gotten older, I've actually learned to appreciate it more. And right now we have two giant organizations. Well, in the 90s, there was an organization called WCW that went out of business. I looked and talked about what I considered their fatal mistake in the mid-90s. And the problem with that, though, is WCW then started bringing in the names. Now, don't get me wrong, names are important. Again, I'm going to go with the football analogy again. Arsenal signed Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang this January. That's a great signing. But they also have some good young players, too, and you combine them together, and boom, that's it. That's what takes it to the stratosphere. Unfortunately, WCW didn't see it that way, and just started hiring the names. They hired Hogan, Savage, Piper, DiBiase,
all these guys who had name value in the WWF, WCW. And because of that, they lost. They lost their young, up-and-coming talent. I'm about to read you 5 names off my notes right here. If these guys had stayed with WCW and the company was built around them, the WWF wouldn't have stood a chance. You had Mick Foley, Brian Pillman, and Steve Austin between 1994 and 1995 leave for ECW. Then you had Jean-Paul Levesque and Dustin Rhodes. They left for the WWF. Those names might not sound familiar to you, but if I was to say Triple H and Goldust, you'd know exactly who I'm talking about. And by the time 1996 had rolled around, Pillman, Foley, and Austin would also be in the WWF. And who do you think Vince McMahon built his company around? He built it around Mankind versus The Undertaker. He built it around Steve Austin versus The Hearts. He built it around Triple H versus The Rock. He built all these things from these new talents that he got in, and let his old ones go. Because he knew in time that these new young kids that he'd got would take it to the next level, which is part of the reason why the new generation had failed, because they weren't new guys. They were just older guys now coming up through the ranks. I mean, Bret Hart was a great wrestler. Bret Hart is one of my favorite of all time. Shawn Michaels, too. But you only got to see them get beat so many times to bigger, stronger people, and especially when those bigger and stronger people are on WCW now, to carry the company. It didn't work, So Vince got these new guys and started building the WWF around that. And business started to pick up for them. And the Monday Night Wars had begun.
In this podcast's opinion, The Simpsons is the greatest animated TV show of all time. I was joined by Checkpoint Reach Luke Elden as we talked about the episode Hurricane Neddy. Flanders' home and his business are destroyed in the hurricane that destroys Springfield, and he just completely snaps on everybody and commits himself to a mental institution. And that right there sounds like why would that be funny? Well, again, okay, at the beginning of the episode, when the hurricane's coming in, they go, okay, let's get in the cellar. It's a standard grandpa drill. That line right there was just, I didn't realize it for years and years, and then I realized what they meant. Grandpa's coming, everybody in the cellar, quick. Flanders doesn't have insurance because he considers it gambling. He tied his house down, but yet his house was destroyed. One of his sons was stuck in the tree, through the tree, going, "I have a headache."
Simpsons just does it so well.
Yes, and then
well, it did anyway.
It did, and we will get to that here in a little bit. And then you go to the bit where he's they go to the church as the shelter, and there's Flanders and his family. And nobody else is affected by it, even though he's the most, it tested his faith. He got a finger cut on the church's Bible, and then they found out that their home was rebuilt overnight by a bunch of people. I think it's this episode that utters the classic line, "Hey, this is Homer Simpson. Remember that time I paid that loan off? Now I need you to do me a favor." And they rebuilt his house shoddily. There's a toilet in the kitchen. Chief Wiggum goes, "Have you ever tried to lug a toilet up a flight of stairs?"
Yeah, we just left it here then.
Yeah, we just left it here. The Lord Baron poster. And then the homage to the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie, which was awful. Where they opened the mini door in the background, there's Barney. "Hey, this is your master bedroom." And then Flanders just completely snaps. Because we don't know this at the time, but Flanders went through an 8-month spanking punishment as a child, and it kind of stopped him from expressing his negative emotions to the point where whenever he did his diddlies, it was him trying to be angry but not knowing how to express it, and then it went to to where he's just yelling at everybody. A lady comes up. He goes to the lady. He goes, "I don't know who you are, but I'm sure you're a jerk." And he's like, "Wait, I just got here. What's going on?"
Yeah, he really does flip. It's boiling point, isn't it? At that point for him,
I think,
and he just unleashes on everybody.
Oh yeah, except Homer. Well, he does, but he's like, "Ooh, I got off easy." We're like, "Homer, you were the worst person I've ever met." He's like, "Ooh, I got off easy on that one." And I love there was two jokes back to back that I loved, right? Because the way I always saw The Simpsons is they always did a really funny joke, then a kind of funny joke, then a hit or miss joke, and then a hilarious joke again, right? And it was, we need you to get in touch with somebody who is the most annoying person you know. Can you think of that? And then it cuts to Homer with the phone ringing, right? So that's a little giggle. It's like, hello? No, I don't know who Ned Flanders is. It's like, it's the man who lived next door before his house blew down. Oh, him! And like, we just watched 6 or 7 seasons of the pair of them going back and forth.
Just Homer in a nutshell, though, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And, I think, and I spoke about this before, I think that American TV does a disservice to their popular characters. Like, the ones who are lacking common sense at the beginning of a series are downright stupid by the end of a series.
Yeah, I noticed that with Friends as well.
Friends, I'm a dad. I've watched every episode of SpongeBob SquarePants. And you watch those older episodes and you realize that he's just naive and childlike and a little annoying, but he's actually intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's just annoying and stupid, and it's not funny anymore, One of my favorite games is darts, and it's a heck of a sport. I was joined by Sarah Connolly, and we talked about how darts have become a major spectator sport in the UK, off on a tangent in one of our episodes.
When you're talking about, it's the most British sounding, of the songs on here and in more traditional rock, does that not just translate to somebody can make a football chant out of it? and I'm not saying this to be but seriously, surely there is.
It's more okay. When I say by more British, right? The top British musicians are musical rock acts of all time.
Right.
Right. Anthem.
Yes, I get that.
And this
that
is
they make football chants out of.
Yes.
Okay, so
I mean, yeah, this could be worked into a football chant. Somebody
has at some point. Probably mid-90s, whatever.
But
yeah.
I mean, this is the most anthematic song on the album.
Oh, it is. But as a Brit, I mean, just are you naturally drawn to things that someone can make a football chant out of?
Possibly. Yeah,
yeah.
It's,
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, this is the thing. Football chants have penetrated every other area of British sport now. The bloody darts get football chants.
Y'all have chants at darts?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Snooker chants.
Oh, no, but not a snooker. No, that's more refined.
Wait, stop. Wait a minute. Okay. You won't chant at somebody popping balls around on a table. But when someone is slinging sharp objects, you're gonna, hey, batter, swing him?
Not necessarily. No. It's like I throw my 3, right? And then there's something in there, and then in between the games. I mean, you got to understand, right? When I first started watching darts in the early 90s, the guys would just literally walk on stage.
I love the fact that y'all have like televised darts.
Oh yeah, 2 world championships.
God. Oh Jesus.
They just get up there, they throw their arrows, they drink the drink, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
By like the early 2000s, I mean, they were putting WWE to shame with their entrances. Guys coming down in Ric Flair style robes with background music,
This is amazing.
Yeah, look.
My mom played darts in the wrong country. Or wait, are there like, do women get the same? Is it co-ed?
No, it's not co-ed.
It's darts. It's regulation height.
I know. I'm there are certain games that I agree should be co-ed. Darts, snooker, pool,
bowling,
anything that doesn't require quote unquote physical strength, because there are some dudes who are huge, some women who are small, and everything in between. And look, you can look at me like that all you want to, but the thing is, the 100-meter dash, the male world record is a full second faster than the female world record.
No. I mean, that's not what I mean, that's not what if it's you and a thing,
yeah,
it should be co-ed.
I know.
If it's you and a ball in a lane, if it's you and a stick and a ball on a table, if it's you and a pointed thing and what, yeah, I mean, that's BS.
But the good thing is in the darts tournament is that they're given, the females do get the same screen time.
Do they get entrances?
Yeah.
I need to Google this.
You can go ahead and Google it.
We need to. Well, we're gonna post links to after this episode drops. I want to see. I want a thread of the best darts entrances.
Oh yeah. But
This is gonna happen.
Like my sisters go to the darts every year. Like
Yeah, but your dad played darts for a while.
yeah.
Yeah.
He could have gone. He could if things had worked out a little better for him and he had the gumption to do it. He could have gone pro.
But I mean, my mom did darts, and she went regional and did, all kinds of stuff. But I mean, of course, here we're so big. But I mean, it's
but no, even my dad was on regional darts team and everything, and he could have actually he could have gone to qualify for the world title tournament, but he couldn't do it because he had to work.
he had a job.
He had a
jobby job.
Yeah.
My God, your dad walking out with the Ric Flair robe. Feather boa.
I've seen him walk out with a Ric Flair robe once or twice getting out the tub, but
feather boa and sequins. Oh yes.
The Coleman, he would have been called because they've all got nicknames
Yeah,
too.
of course.
So
Sorry guys, we went off on a whole working class tangent that just
we'll do a random episode one day, and no one will speak about one thing the whole time.
Yeah. Y'all know y'all miss me. Okay.
In the 90s, one of the biggest bands out of the UK was Blur. Me and Sarah, we talked about how they were perceived before their breakout album, Parklife. Okay, so, let me tell you a story, okay? And let's
Gather round, children.
Let's gather round. Listen to Grandpa Simpson, because remember, one time I went to get a new heel for my shoe, so I tied an onion to my belt. It was the style at the time. So, anyway, no, I'm not going to go into all that. Which, by the way, annoys the kids so much. Okay, so let's go back in time. Let's take our wonderful, wonderful time machine 30 years ago.
I hate you.
Yeah, I know, I hate me too. To
the
1990.
halcyon days.
Halcyon days of 1990. We just had a new decade. Hair metal was going away. Nirvana weren't big yet. And the Stone Roses had just basically blown away the British music scene, okay?
Okay.
A lot of British labels were looking for kind of similar bands to that. Okay, so there's this little southern Cockney band called Seymour who changed their name to Blur.
Right.
And released a double A-side single called I Know / She's So High. And it didn't really go anywhere.
Right.
Because it didn't. But then, in early 91, they released a song called There's No Other Way. And the music press absolutely lost their shit.
Really?
Yeah, it got number 6 in the charts. The hook of the song was the drum beat and the bass line. And the style in which they did was unusual for like a pop song back in that day.
Okay.
And British music press falling all over them, thought they were going to be the next big thing. Stone Roses is going to be a little while and release a new album, so there's this Blue band coming along. Hey, they sound really, really good. It was funky as opposed to traditional 4-bar rock. And the rest of their debut album, Leisure, had similar stuff. Nothing really as good. Especially when you consider that I Know wasn't an album track. It was never released on any albums, which would have been in a similar vein. But the problem is that Blur have always been, or were always, up until 1995, a cheeky, chappy, jingly British pop band, And when I say British pop band, I don't just mean like from Britain. I mean I say British, they were decisively English.
Right.
And Southern English at that.
Oh, yeah.
So they weren't working class, they were the soft Southern shandy drinkers.
Yes.
Now, I want to clarify something before we carry on here. I got a message on our YouTube page a couple of months ago when we were talking about the dichotomy in the UK between North and South, and how in America
it's reversed.
It's reversed. And somebody was
That's how I have to explain it to people here.
And somebody was like, well, in Chicago and New York and Pennsylvania, they have hard-working, working-class people. I understand that. And they have hard-working class people in Colchester. It's just when you think of salt of the earth... Rust Belt. Yeah, it's the South in America and it's the North in the United Kingdom. Right.
There's hard-working people in all 50 states.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's when you think of lower class working Americans, you think of somewhere with an accent going yeehaw yeehaw, which is not.
I'm gonna cut you.
Well, it's not correct, but that's what most people outside of the United States think.
I gotcha.
And when they think of hard working British dudes, they think of the dudes in the flat caps and the cotton shirts
Right.
and, you know, stuff like
Right.
that. Okay. So I had to get that,
can we have another?
Yeah, I had to get that off my chest.
Okay.
But the problem is going back to the cheeky chappy English Southern, you know, Cockney style of pop music. Grunge hit the UK in the very, very early 90s.
Right.
So the kids have got a choice to listen to songs about Sunday dinner and war memorials and British commercials, or songs that kind of speak to them, coming from bands like Nirvana, Pearl Jam, bands like R.E.M., you know.
Well, yeah, they're going to pick the other.
Yeah, so unfortunately for Blue, Modern Life is Rubbish was not really a huge success. I mean, critically, the critics thought it was good.
Right.
But, you know, it was just, again, it was too English. Mm-hmm. And the problem is, as well, is their next big thing tag also went away. Because after a top 6 single with There's No Other Way, everything between that and Girls and Boys, which was basically their second single to their 10th single, didn't chart in the top 25.
Right.
Now, over here, correct me if I'm wrong, the Billboard Top 200, if anything shows up on that list, it's considered a hit, right?
Correct.
And it's because there's so much music. In the United States, such a big country, so much is released at a certain time. In Britain, it's top 40.
Okay.
But if something doesn't chart in the top 20...
It's not really...
It's not, you know, it's just there.
Right.
You know, and having a bunch of stuff chart under 25, you know, Blur...
I mean, you're a working band, but you're
Yeah.
not a hit band.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you know, they started becoming the afterthought in the music press. They went from next big thing to, oh yeah, Blur, yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah, I remember those guys. Yeah.
So, you know, they were upset. They were traveling, promoting this album that their record label didn't like, that the music press didn't like, in a country they weren't particularly fond of. Not in the I hate America and its lifestyle kind of way, but I hate America because it's not England, you know. They were homesick. They were drastically homesick. And Damon Albarn was listening to the BBC World Service. And at that time, it was very, very businessy and British and, you know, it was a pre-worldwide global world at that point, right?
I follow.
Okay. So, Damon, depressed, homesick, and hating all this grunge nonsense that he thought, ironically did something punk. And that was continue to write the traditional British pop songs that he liked. You know, the four chords, the characters, and, you know, he wanted to write what he called classic British pop music. So, they start writing this up. Now, the band are about to go up financially because they've spent all their advance and the label doesn't want to... The label can't afford to keep paying them. Not because they're expensive, but they see them as a waste of money and a waste of resources. The band is about to go down. And with their last amount of cash, they recruit Stephen Street to produce an album. And around about this time, this is like early 93, mid 93, the tides are changing in British music, and suddenly British bands are starting to be...
Cool Britannia.
Not quite.
Almost.
Not quite. More along the lines of not quite unhip Britannia. Because the shoegaze...
Alright, Britannia.
Yeah. Decent Britannia. It went from, like, the grunge scene was still there, but at the same time, like, the shoegazing scene, the Manchester scene, all that stuff kind of not faded away, but, you know,
there was a lull.
There was a lull, and then all of a sudden, Elastica, Pulp, Suede started releasing stuff, and the public were like, oh, this British pop music stuff, this pop rock stuff, this could be interesting.
There might be something to that.
Yeah. And I mean, they all got really, really good fanfare.
Right.
Unfortunately for these three bands, the biggest buzz was on this brand new signed band from Manchester who hadn't played a gig in London yet and were the hottest independent band around at the time.
My boys.
The four guys called Oasis?
Uh-huh.
I wonder what happened to them. So what happened is they got in the studio and recorded this album.
Right.
That became Parklife.
Right.
And the record label, excuse my language, the record label the chicken.
Bacock.
They said, oh my God, we're ruined. Because this album is so English and so Southern English, and it goes against everything that we've got going on, and we need to sound more American,
Right.
and blah, blah, blah. And at that point, Food Records was more or less sold to EMI at that point, because they couldn't keep running. Now, unfortunately, fortunately for British music, but unfortunately for worldwide music, this is around about the time that Kurt Cobain died.
Right.
And with all due respect to Nirvana, and I love Nirvana, I do, I love Nirvana, their music was not exactly the happy-go-lucky,
It wasn't meant to be.
No, exactly. And then after the lead songwriter is dead due to an alleged suicide, wink.
Here we go.
No, because the lead singer is dead, he committed suicide. The kind of the British music press and the British music fans in general needed something a little more upbeat and jolly and
Right.
jaunty.
Right.
And so the vacuum was there. The bands that I mentioned previously had either released their latest releases or
Right.
weren't ready to release anything yet. And Blur came in. And bang. There we are. Blur are now suddenly...
Bada bing, bada boom.
Blur are now suddenly the most hottest band in Britain. So nobody expected anything of this album. The band thought it would fail commercially, but they thought it was a damn good album. Nobody predicted that it would go on and sell 2.5 million records. The Lion King is my favourite animated movie, and had a shocking death in the very, very first act. So I was joined by Super Weird's Ben Tynan and Dexter Duran, and we talked a conversation about what were the saddest deaths in kid movies.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want a top tier of sad animal deaths in kids' movies. All right?
I'm not making that list with you.
I'm going to make the list right now. I'm going to say 5 right here on this moment. Okay, so number 5 is Mufasa, just because we're talking about it now.
So it only gets worse. Is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
it's going to get worse. Number 4 is oh God, help me out. It's
Is it Disney?
No, it's not a Disney movie. It's Never-Ending Story.
Oh, Atreyu.
Yeah, Atreyu was the boy. It's the
horse.
The horse's name, whose name I can't remember.
Not Falcor, that's the dog.
The horse that just got sad and couldn't get out of the mud. Excuse me.
Oh, God.
Artax?
Stand by.
What?
You're close.
Fairfax?
Artax.
Yeah, you're right.
Artax.
I'm sorry.
Artax.
Yeah, there.
Halifax.
Carfax?
Halliburton.
Number 3 is the classic Bambi's mom dying. I feel like that is always going to be talked about. Number 2 is the death of Optimus Prime.
You had to bring that one up.
Yes, he's not an animal, but it still hurt.
Yeah. Never saw it, never cared.
You need to watch the original Transformers cartoon movie. It is fucking amazing.
Yes.
It's not as overtly a toy ad as the show is.
Okay.
It actually has a plot.
Okay.
And Leonard Nimoy is the bad guy.
Yes. Leonard Nimoy as Unicron. It's
Okay.
awesome. No, that's Orson Welles.
That's also
He is Galvatron.
Galvatron.
And then number 1, saddest animal death in a kids movie, Auntie from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Want to know why? Because they befriended it. It became their pet. And it died saving their lives from a huge stop-motion scorpion.
Yeah, yeah,
It's terrifying.
yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to pull you off track. I just had to say all those things out loud.
You didn't
My
have
therapist says if I don't say top 5 lists of things, I'll die.
You must have the same therapist as John Cusack.
I do.
My favourite band is Oasis, and I'm not going to apologise for that. It also happens to be my wife's favourite band. We openly talked about their biggest song outside of Wonderwall, Don't Look Back in Anger, and its impact on both of our lives. This one I'm nervous about because as far as I'm concerned, this is biblical.
Oh, I see what's coming up.
Hey, you gonna fight me on it, aren't you?
Actually, no, I'm not.
Good. Don't Look Back in Anger.
Biblical.
The unofficial British national anthem, Don't Look Back in Anger, is in biblical. I know we kept cigarettes and alcohol out of biblical because of a stolen riff. However, like I mentioned, Don't Look Back in Anger plays 8 bars of the riff, where cigarettes and alcohol, the whole hook of the song is it. Don't Look Back in Anger. We've talked it to death, but I want to say it one more time. One of the greatest rock anthems ever written by a British musician. Ever. Hey Jude, Don't Look Back in Anger. That's the top 2 as far as I'm concerned.
That, and again, as an American fan, the video was amazing. It was one of the few things that we got over here consistently.
That little eyeglass square eye thing that he used to. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was also our introduction to those who paid attention to. It was before Noel got his teeth fixed, and he had to put the veneers on. So pop the thing on so that way he could sing without the gap.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, there's.
But it was his first lead vocals, wasn't it?
Single.
Yeah, single.
In fact, I think it was his first lead vocals with a full band arrangement behind him, because everything else
That's
he
what
did
I'm saying.
was
It was demo stuff. Yeah.
Well, not just that. At this point, you had Half the World Away,
Right.
Sad Song, Talk Tonight. They were all simple acoustic numbers with maybe a little bit of extra instrumentation,
Right.
but no drums, no electric guitar, stuff like that. This, I think, is the start of the professional disagreements between the guys.
Well, yeah, because it was one of their biggest hits, and Liam didn't sing it.
Well, not only that, but at that point, Noel kind of twigged that
He could do it.
he could do it without Liam, whereas Liam figured out that Noel could do it without him. Oh crap, here comes the conflicts.
Right.
Although Liam does do a good Don't Look Back in Anger. He can do it.
Yeah, oh, yeah, he can do it.
And at the time, that was the reason why they didn't want him to do it, because they didn't think he could do it. Any songs written in a certain key, Noel sang the thing for. So yeah, okay, biblical. No argument.
No question.
Beavis and Butthead is a fantastic cartoon. But before we started our episode, we had to make a disclaimer to talk about it. Here's what it was. John and Gregg are not role models. While they are human, they are about to delve into the world of the most uncouth of cartoons. Some of the things they will talk about and language they use to describe things would cause pearls to be clutched, blood pressure to rise, and hopefully not get John deported. To put it another way, don't listen at work or around kids at home. Listener discretion is advised. Butt munch. The origins of this podcast and the Because Maybe Network was influenced by a conversation between me and Gregg about the album Enema of the State by Blink-182 and the movie American Pie being the two most biggest examples of 90s culture. While in our episode of American Pie, me and Gregg talk about the most infamous scene in the movie. So, here we come to the moment of the movie. The moment that made the movie. So, why? That's the only question I have to ask. Why? Why did we have to see this in the movie? Why couldn't they Father Ted it?
I don't know, man.
For those of you, for those of you wondering what Father Ted is, right? But what Father Ted it means is that comedy Father Ted, they'd set up a joke and they'd show you the aftermath of a situation. Kind of like, how Family Guy sets up, hey, remember that time when we did and then all of a sudden it'll take you to a flashback or something, right? But the difference being is they won't show you what happened. They'll just show you the aftermath. Right. So in Father Ted, for example, there was an episode where one of the priests did a funeral, and he wasn't supposed to do a funeral because the last funeral did ended up in disaster. And it cuts to the funeral site where the hearse is on fire. There's 2 ambulances out there, and everybody's like just standing there shaking. And the priest going, "Yeah, I don't know how that happened either." And you don't see what happens; you just see the aftermath, which makes it funny. Why couldn't we do that with the pie? Why couldn't we just see him putting his fingers in there? Then next thing you know,
you just see a hole in it.
Yeah.
And
him pulling his pants up or something like that,
And then he's just like pie filling like on him, like around his pants. Yeah, I guess I don't know. They were just going for it. I think
he went for it too. I got to give Jason Biggs a little bit of method credit for that one because he went for that.
He really actually did it.
He didn't. I don't think he went all the way, but like the acting portion of it.
Okay.
He gave it his all, or as much as he could give it. Maybe not the best choice of words, but so what are we talking about? Well,
those director notes could get really weird real quick.
Yeah,
it's like, come on, man, you gotta get it up. Come on, get it up high more. Come on, man, really give it to it.
Good job, you were a method actor. I mean, can you imagine that? What is my motivation for this pie? Because it's funny, just do it.
not getting the filling in my urethra.
But for those, hopefully it's not nair.
Oz describes third-base Jim as warm apple pie, so a curious Jim temporarily loses his sanity. No and has full sex with a freshly baked apple pie left on the table by his mother, giving the film the title. How did he burn himself?
And how was he going to explain that? He got to get. He didn't get rid of it. I mean, any sane person would have immediately destroyed the evidence. Immediately.
Well, if he hadn't got caught, because that was the thing, he got caught by his dad.
Good point. No, I would just spun it so it all would like, oh, what happened? Aliens. Oh, good night.
Yeah. Why are you pants down? Oh, we forgot the first thing we forgot about was the illegal channels line.
It's the new gangster rapper look. Yeah, just take your pants off. It was in the 80s it was hammer pants, in the 90s, early 90s was low. And now I was just totally take your pants off. That's the new thing, Dad.
God. I mean, I'm just imagining, because I've got two boys.
Man.
I've got two boys who are getting to that age, and I'm just imagining what would happen if I walked in on that. What would I say or do? Because I would just, aside from laughing and picking myself up off the floor, I have no idea what I would say or do.
Yeah, I might try to just creep out of there unnoticed. Like, I did not see that. I'm going to go pour bleach in my eyeballs.
Pick up the phone. Hey, Sarah, guess what? You will not believe what I just saw.
Hey, I've walked into somebody in my sound booth before.
Nice.
At a venue I was working at.
I know some of the venues that you work at too, and some of them are more wholesome than others. Let's hope it wasn't one of the more wholesome venues.
No, this was a good 8 or 9 years ago or more in a venue that's not even open anymore.
Oh.
But yeah, I saw there was people having sex in the bathroom there one time too. I've seen all kinds of. It was a bar in downtown Shreveport, and it's all you know.
There you go.
So,
well,
the Foo Fighters rose from the ashes to become one of the world's biggest bands. Sarah and I talk about one of their best songs, My Hero.
We go to My Hero.
I love this one.
I love this song too. It is not what everybody thinks it's about. I want to make this clear right now. It is not what the song everybody thinks this is about Kurt Cobain.
Okay, it's not 100% about Kurt. There are elements about him. Let's just dive into the research, shall we?
So Dave Grohl said on numerous occasions this was not written about Kurt Cobain.
Mm-hmm.
He said, that's my way of saying that when I was young, I didn't have big rock heroes. I didn't want to grow up and be some big sporting hero. My heroes were ordinary people that I can have a lot of respect for and are just solid everyday people you can rely on. That's why the line goes, there goes my hero, he's ordinary.
Mm-hmm. However, in 99, he did admit that there were elements about there that could be contributed to Cobain.
Exactly, could be. So he wasn't consciously writing a song.
No, but subconsciously there's probably some.
Yeah. I mean, because Kurt Cobain was an ordinary guy. I mean, he was homeless for a while. He just happened to be a musician.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've always thought that this song was about everyday people.
Yeah.
It
begins with double track drums.
Yes, which is very rare.
Mm-hmm. Playing the same beat with a different pad being hit on in each track on the mix.
Okay, so for those of you who are not drummers or producers, let me explain what that means. You ever see a drummer in a show kind of take like a little Allen key out and start messing around with his drum kit?
Mm-hmm.
He's for lack of a better term, he's tuning up his skins,
right,
or his pads.
Mm-hmm.
And for when you record, with a set of microphones, and so they played that, and then they recorded him doing the same thing on a different set of not a different set of microphones, but they recorded a second time with his drum skins tuned to a different sound. Mm-hmm. That's why the drum sounds as loud as it does and sounds slightly different as well. Yes, see, I can put my technicalities to use.
Yes, but due to the complications of this, the song has a simpler beat when played live.
Yeah, because
he sort of shot himself in the foot on that one.
Yeah, he went a little too artsy-fartsy with this one. But then again, you can't really do two drummers on tour. Now, okay, fair enough. You could just put a second kid out there and let Dave Grohl play it, but at the same time, he can't sing and drum that kind of beat at the same time.
Oh, he could get, what's her name? Nandy. Yes. This song is a slower pace than most of the album, but it keeps up with the loudness of the album.
Yeah.
And it has a reflective feel about it.
It does. It does. You do feel kind of, not looking down, but looking back. And it's a wholesome song when you think about it. And that's, when you're in the middle of a divorce, couch surfing, waiting for royalties to come in off an album that didn't sell great. It was a good album, but it wasn't a huge smash hit.
All right.
And you're couch surfing. It's really easy to be cynical, and he wasn't cynical with this one. It was very, very nail, meat, head,
Right.
Did it really, really well. Staying with music, Sarah and I did a review of The Bends by Radiohead. Here we go into detail about two amazing songs, High and Dry, and a song on OK Computer called Lucky.
The next track number 3.
Flying through these tonight.
We are. Is High and Dry. High and Dry was originally recorded during the Pablo Honey sessions. The band were unhappy with the mix and abandoned it. The label, however, and they're like, let's shove it in a pigeonhole, liked the song and put on the album with the original Pablo Honey mix.
Yeah.
They thought, like, this is going to make us money.
And it did.
It did, yes.
And here's the thing, right? Tom York calls it one of the worst songs he's ever written. And I love this song.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really, really good. I think the arrangement is good.
Mm-hmm.
I like the little acoustic riff that goes on in it.
Mm-hmm.
I like the style of song that it is, where it goes from, really, really mellow to,
yeah,
the kind of, I don't want to say Beatles style, because it's not Beatles style.
it's 60s-esque.
It's 60s-esque. It's definitely 60s. And the Radiohead fans, the ones who walk around worshipping Tom York, think it's awful, and the ones who love the band and love the music think it's really, really good. So I don't know. I personally love this song. I think it's one of my favorite Radiohead tracks, probably second or third behind Lucky, which I think is I got a story to tell you about Lucky one of these days. No, I'll tell it now. So, Lucky is a song off the next album, OK Computer, if you don't know. If you do know, then you're going to know where I'm going with this. See, back in the halcyon days of 2004, before we had MP3 players, we had CD players. And I made like about 10 CDs to get me through the flight that I was about to take. Never been on an airplane before.
Yes.
Sitting at Terminal 5 at Heathrow Airport. And on comes Lucky on my CD player. So I'm sitting there, I'm listening to it, and then I'm thinking, oh no. Because I'm flying on a plane to meet my girlfriend, who's called Sarah. Okay. The lyrics in the song include the phrase, "Kill me, Sarah," and "Pull me out of the air crash."
Whoopsies.
I've never been on a plane before. This is like 2 minutes before boarding. This song kicks on, and so
that's fun.
Yes. So I now just realized one of the clips that we're going to be using, by the way, in the next
Great.
video series. Dumb and Dumber was the height of Jim Carrey in the 1990s. Greg and I talked about who would play Harry in Dumb and Dumber if the producers managed to get their way and not hire Jeff Daniels. So they were considering Chris Elliott and Rob Lowe to play Harry. Now, I'm not sure who Chris Elliott is, but I know who Rob Lowe is.
Yeah, Chris Elliott, he was in There's Something About Mary. He was also in Groundhog Day. He was the cameraman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but his...
I know the face, but not the name.
Yeah, he's kind of a character actor, kind of like Margot Martindale. Like, he just kind of... He's never really had, like, a definitive starring role. He's always kind of been like a B or C character, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he's extremely talented. I think that he could have pulled off Harry better than Rob Lowe. Like, Rob Lowe's old school. He's got some really good chops, but Chris Elliott's he's got more of that style that he's kind of wacky. Like Rob Lowe, I don't know. But still, that's pretty impressive that they had that they had those two guys and still chose Jeff Daniels. I guess they really saw something when he worked with Jim, because I mean, you got to see what that looks like.
And you got to have, you know, as you mentioned earlier, the chemistry. I don't think, you know, Chris Elliott is now I know the face. You know, he's the guy from Scary Movie 2 with the hand.
Yeah. Strong hand. Forgot about that.
And he pulled that off to, you know.
Oh yeah, the timing on it. You know, he's like I said, he can totally do comedy, but I think at the end of the day, it literally came down to, hey, who's looking the best with Jim? Like, who's working well with Jim? So. And
it came down to Jeff Daniels. So the studio asked him to it was the studio's decision, not the production company's decision. So Charles B. Wessler and the Kajita Motion Pictures Corporation, they had no say in this, and they made an insulting offer of $50,000. Take it or leave it. And to everybody's surprise, including Jim Carrey, he took the money. So that's an investment right there. I don't even think he got residual rights or anything like that.
I was just fixing to say, I wonder how, you know, maybe he had a strong back-end deal or something, but I mean, if that was, they were free and clear on that, man. Like, that's, dude, just the way the world works now, that's straight up robbery.
Oh, yeah.
Because your intellectual property is going to be proliferated in so many different ways these days.
Yeah.
And I know in 94 it was a little bit different, but it's still all one and the same. Anytime that movie is screened, you know, you should be, as the person who starred in it, you deserve a little bit of it. So
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And, you know, it wasn't a clean acceptance either, because the production scheduled a whole week of filming of Jim Carrey's solo parts. So wherever Jim Carrey was doing things by himself on screen, that was in the first week of filming. They didn't shoot a single scene with Jeff Daniels in, because they were trying to get him to quit.
Oh, okay, like the limo scene.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of all the ones where or at least where he's either solo or he's not in it. The dream sequence where he's in the lodge. A couple of there's 4 or 5 of them that I can think of where it's just him. That's interesting. Huh. I guess they decided they had other plans and it just didn't work out that way, or.
Well, after Jim Carrey stormed the director's room and said, "Okay, it's Tom, let's do this," you know, then, because basically he pulled the Bruce Willis line. The Bruce Willis line is, "Who's your second choice to play John McClane?" That was always his line during Die Hard. Whenever the production company was trying to change something that he didn't want, he'd go, "Okay, so who's your second choice to play John McClane?" And they'd back down. They'd back down. Okay. So the minute they put them together, that's when the chemistry really, really hit it off. And they actually improvised a lot of their scenes together.
Yeah.
The scene
it has a natural feel. Like, sometimes it's hard to tell, like, what's scripted and what's not, because they really just get along really, really well, and just that their timing is really well together.
Yeah, and one of the things that, you know, like the tag scene in the van, that was improvised completely. And the scene where I had it written down. Hang on one second.
The most annoying sound.
Yes, the most annoying sound in the world. That was Jim Carrey started that, and then Daniels joined in as he made the noise. So poor old Mike Starr, he had no idea what was going on when he was in that van with them. When he was doing that,
so
that irritation was like legit.
Those are all genuine reactions.
Yes.
Yeah, see, that's really the best way to do it. I've heard in horror movies sometimes they won't let the actors see the bad guy.
No.
Until it's time, so they can get some natural reaction. So that makes sense to kind of do that and from an improv angle to get a natural reaction. Yeah, so that's really good. That's some funny stuff. That one and the one at the convenience store, but I think we're gonna get to that one later.
Oh, we will. There were a lot of musician deaths in the 90s, and we paid tribute to a whole bunch of them. Here's how we reflected, me and Sarah did, on the death of Kurt Cobain.
To the Gen Xers.
He was the spokesperson. American Gen Xers, he was the spokesperson.
Yeah. I mean, we could tell you where we were when we found out that he died. There's very few people, like,
people know where they were when Kennedy died.
Yes.
Certain people could tell you where they were when John Lennon died. There's like my generation, a good chunk of us could tell you where we were when we found out that Kurt died.
They closed Seattle schools, didn't they?
They closed a lot of schools nationwide, at least for the day, because they filmed that morning and they announced it, and teenagers were,
they couldn't concentrate. They were distraught,
crying in the hallways. It was bad.
Yeah.
It was horrible. Yeah, so it was.
He was the front man and songwriter of the biggest and most important band in the world at that point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people thought that, you know, it had the same impact that Lennon's death had. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
You know, to a certain generation, a certain group of people.
Okay, certain generations. Okay, yeah, it's Lennon or even Elvis's death to a certain generation, certain group of people. So anytime it's sudden, and yeah, it's just it breaks your heart. It absolutely breaks your heart. But yeah, those are the people we lost during the 90s. This not all, but they're a sizable chunk.
Sizable chunk. And look, this wasn't meant to be a trip down morbid lane.
Right.
It's, you know, let's look at the good that all these guys did.
The legacies they
left behind. I picked the ones that I picked specifically because of their legacies. You know, Freddie Mercury is considered one of the greatest singers of all time.
Right.
Kurt Cobain was the leader of one of the biggest bands of all time.
Right.
Eazy-E was a pioneer. Mm-hmm. So was Selena. Mm-hmm. Richie Edwards, one of the finest songwriters of his generation.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Hutchence was a wild man, but he made some decent music.
Yes.
His reputation as a wild man is why he's here, you know, and just like Frank Zappa and you know, they all had a place in people's lives.
Yes.
And every single one of these people on this list is somebody's favorite musician.
Yes.
Everyone. Even the dude from Milli Vanilli.
Yeah.
There's a Milli Vanilli fan out there who you know, whose death affected them.
Mm-hmm.
Good Riddance, or Time of Your Life by Green Day, is their equivalent of Wonderwall, meaning that's a song that's probably their most famous but not reflective of their work overall. Amanda Morrison and I talk about why and how nobody got what the song was really about. We're going to go on to the song on the album. And
your favorite, huh?
Oh yeah, I love this song. I don't dislike this song. It's just played out.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Good Riddance or Time of Your Life, depending on which way you look at it, read it. It's the only all-acoustic song on the album, just guitars and violin. And it is about... It's the most punk thing that they've ever done when all their material had been spikier and more hardcore. So it's like the equivalent... You mentioned hair metal a minute ago. It's the equivalent of them doing their ballads, you know. Because you always had that one ballad that they released. And... This song is about Billie Joe Armstrong's ex-girlfriend who left to join the Peace Corps. Hence why the song is called Good Riddance, to express his anger. And then this was used at every wedding, graduation, prom.
Yeah. Like, it was played, I'm sure, at my prom, and I'm sure at my graduation. Like, actually, before starting this, I was talking to Curtis about it, and he's like, yeah, that was my class song.
Oh, no. Yeah. I'm sorry about that. It's because it's the song and it's played out and it sounds nothing like the rest of their work. The example I gave was Wonderwall. If you listen to some of Oasis's back catalogue, Wonderwall's like sticks out like a thumb, like a sore thumb.
Right.
This
and like this is a song that people became familiar with Green Day with, the ones that weren't in that. And then I felt like they were Green Day fans, and it's like not like I'm trying to gatekeep, but this was the song they knew. And I'm like, okay, like you're a fan of this song. I can appreciate that.
And then they'd listen to another. Imagine them listening to, we were just talking about it. Imagine them listening to Tick Back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like, well, that doesn't sound like Green Day. No, that sounds exactly like Green Day. It's this that doesn't sound like Green Day. You know, and
although I have to appreciate really hearing Billy Joel's vocals. Like, it is nice to really hear them, but you know.
I mean, the lyrics do fit that it's the end of an adventure and the start of a new one, so I get why it was used at proms and, you know, weddings and stuff like that. It's just, man, read the room. That's not what it is. It's a guy telling his ex-girlfriend, for lack of a better term, F*** you. That's all it is. And, you know, that's why they flipped the title to Time of Your Life, because people were realizing this was going to blow up and be a huge song. I mean, wasn't
this on an earlier album? Like, I thought it was on, like, Kerplunk or something. No?
A version of it might have been.
I think I know it was re-recorded, but I feel like this was an earlier song that once it was re-recorded blew up. But yeah.
I mean, it's okay. It's a good song, right? I'm not gonna crap on it all the time. It's a really, really good song.
Just like I don't hate Wonderwall, but I get what you're saying as far as
yeah. It's just
what that song represents.
It's this song. It's like Creep by Radiohead. It's, you know, it's not representative of the band's work. It's a good song, but no. But yeah, according to Bill Joe Armstrong's about their relationship, and according to the fan base, it will change from meaning to meaning depending on who you ask. However, in Tamil tradition, I'm going to take what the songwriter said about this one. You know, it's a big screw off to his ex-girlfriend. I hope
which the whole rest of the album is pointing out how if she had stayed, maybe his whole life would have been different. Like,
I never saw it like that until you just said it. That's a damn good point.
So I think this has, as far as fit the album, but sound wise it just doesn't, and there's not a good transition.
No, it's just
like,
straight in. So I mean, again, great song, but overplayed and not representative as the band as a whole. And for it to be their song, it's, yeah.
Yeah, the song, people, even if you don't know Green Day, you know this song is a little like, oh, okay, well, at least until American Idiot came out, and then I feel like it got, I mean, it's still the song, like the most generic or commercial song they have, but
it was trumped by a lot of the stuff on American Idiot in terms of, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Which I think Wake Me Up When September Ends was the ballad Green Day should have been known for. Like, that is more Green Day. But yeah.
And I love that song too. Actually, I love American Idiot. It's a damn good album.
It is. It really is. Like, that's one I need to go back to, because I think when I first listened to it, I was so caught off guard because I was just honestly ready or like prepared for more of the same. And, you know, it's like that expectation violation. And It's like, what is this? And then the more I listen to it, the more I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it. So yeah.
Sweet.
Anyway.
So, a movie I've grown to distaste over the last few years has been Forrest Gump, and part of that is how Jenny was portrayed in the movie. Hear my discussion on it and why Sarah finds it absolutely amusing. One of the constants in this movie, and I'm gonna just flat out say it right now. One of the constants in this movie is the portrayal of Jenny. Forrest is this clean cut, kind of had advantage taken off him by the army, by the football, by the people he was running with. And Jenny comes across as this...
Oh, it's the Madonna horror.
Yeah,
dichotomy.
The whore of Babylon.
Yeah.
Basically, she is to blame for all of the faults that are going on in her life. She is to blame. Now, is there parts where she needs to take responsibility for her actions? Of course. But quite clearly, that is a child that needs therapy.
Oh, yeah, but they didn't. You can't look at something set in the 60s with a 2023 lens.
No,
though,
but
they didn't have that.
But a 1994 lens is still making her out to be the villain.
Well, no, they were portraying it how it would have been. You can still be true. It's still true to the time.
True. But at the same time, she was blamed for a lot of her actions. I just, watching it...
This is one of the few times that we are going to have to severely agree to disagree on something.
Okay. I think that the way that she was portrayed was poor.
Oh no, okay. Was she portrayed badly in some areas? Yes. I think a lot of it is situational, and I think a lot of it is meant to be portrayed as situational. I think because it shows that she cares for Forrest. She cares for Forrest
as much as she can care for someone.
As much as she is capable at any given point of time in the movie of caring for anybody.
Yes.
So, she's trying to survive in a world where women had zero to any rights at the time. I mean, at the time when she did her Playboy spread and left school, women couldn't have a credit card.
No, I know that.
I mean, so
it was just displayed as this. See this woman, stay away from her because she's bad. She's evil.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she wasn't.
She wasn't. No, I didn't see her portrayed quite that bad. I mean, I thought it was more real, but I didn't think. And it showed what she went through, but I don't think it was necessarily a reflection on her.
Right.
But maybe I'm viewing it through an empathetic female lens, so maybe not.
Because the way I saw it is that everything wrong in Forrest's life was Jenny's fault.
No.
That's how it came across. Like, every time she'd go away and he'd hit a depressive thing, that just left him. You know what I mean? Or she's in and out of his life again. You know, it's...
Well, yeah, because she didn't know.
She didn't know, but the film's attitude towards that kind of was entirely negative.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, that's where a lot of this movie falls off for me, is the portrayal of Jenny.
Right.
It's, you know, she went through a hard life as a child. Mm-hmm. Was never helped for it, mm-hmm. and was turned into this person of disrepute.
Right.
So not necessarily, you know, she should have gotten help and they should have given her help, because obviously they didn't.
Right, that wasn't a thing.
That wasn't a thing back then. But at the same time, the way they portrayed, she wasn't portrayed as sympathetic as she should have been.
Okay, I'll give you that one.
So, Super Mario 2, or Super Mario The Lost Levels, or Super Mario USA. Depends on where you're from in this world. Thankfully, Greg and I were here to explain the difference between the three. So let's talk about Mario 2 for a minute. Okay, so Mario 2, the premise of Mario 2 is Mario has a dream of a staircase leading to a mysterious door in a mysterious place. A voice identifies the world, the dreamland as Subcon, and asks for Mario's help in defeating the evil villainous frog named Wart, a tyrant who's caused Subcon and his people great pain. Mario suddenly awakes and decides to tell Luigi, Toad, and Princess Daisy about his dream, who all report having the same dream. Ooh. So this is a completely and utterly different game. This is... What's I supposed to say this? There are no coins. There are no stars. Well, there are stars, but you got to get cherries to get the star.
It's a different dispensing method for pickups.
There's no boxes. There's power-up meter.
There's like a little beaker that you have to break.
Yep.
There's like a door, and there's like radishes that you pick up when you go through. Yeah, it's very different the way it's laid out. It was, to me, when I first put it, it was like night and day compared to the first one.
Which is what a sequel should be. You should elaborate on a sequel, I think.
Sure, it should have something new to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could carry and throw your enemies at each other. Have you ever been so angry you've hit somebody with somebody?
Yeah, just pick up a dude and you throw him at another dude. Yeah.
I mean, you start a Super Mario, you have full hit point. You can have up to full hit points as opposed to maximum of 2. It's a one-player game. They all had different traits. Mario was an all-around character. Luigi was slower but could jump higher. Daisy could float for a period of time, and Toad was the strongest but had a low jump ceiling. So he was, when it came to the jumps, he was pretty useless, but when he came to chunking things at people, he was the best.
Right. Yeah, so maybe he could get the bosses out in 3 hits instead of 4 or something.
Yeah.
That'd be like the trade-off, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, all the enemies in this game were different. There was no Bowser.
Yeah, that's just weird.
It was the first Mario game to specify terrain in the areas that you were in. So this was the first one to have an ice levels and forest levels and desert levels and so on and so forth, which have become staples. However, the ending of the game was just in Mario's head. It was a dream all along.
That's cheap.
Yeah, it's
well, it's a way of getting away for resolving it. It's a twist, but it's also it can be construed as a little lazy.
It is. It's what's the word I'm looking for? Not MacGuffin. That's not the word I'm looking for. It'll come to me here in a minute. But it's just it's lazy storytelling, you know. This is where, you know, some people could say Mario jumped the shark at this point.
Right.
But obviously it didn't. But, you know, it's shark jumping worthy moment that they managed to get back on track with Mario 3. But so we mentioned the lost levels was too difficult. So what happened? How did we end up with this Mario 2? Did they go through a long development? No. What they did is they took a game called Yumi Kojo Doki Doki Panic. Right. And that was originally a test game that Nintendo built to see how strong the NES could do. So what they did is they reskinned it with Mario characters. They just needed 4 Mario characters to do it, and they got the 4. Reskinned it, made the graphics a little tighter, and bada bing, bada boom, they had a new Archmage on their hand, you know? And in Japan, this was called Super Mario USA. The game, like Lost Levels, was not released in Japan until, you know, this Mario All-Stars came out.
Right.
I mean, the backgrounds and the music were enhanced. One of the things that this did do for Mario 2 is that if you died, you could select a new character. So if you would on a level as Luigi, for example, in the original, you just had to suck it up and deal with it. But now, you could switch out if Luigi wasn't matching the style of the level that you needed.
Yeah, you say I need to be able to glide over this one part or something, so I'm gonna get the princess.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and you know you could this game. I mean, this game was also difficult. It wasn't a cakewalk. It wasn't easy that they needed. I mean, some of the levels, the enemies, are just completely. It's just completely full of enemies.
Oh yeah, like overrun. Yeah, totally.
And because you can only throw things at people, you only have so much ammo that you can, you know, unless you pick people up and throw people at people. But then again, some of these people are shooting spit stuff at you, or bombs, or whatever. You know, it's just. It was difficult. There was very few opportunities to regain your health.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was an easier game than the Lost Levels, but it was certainly not an easy game to begin with.
Yeah, well, and part of that was just like you were saying, is just the format of it, the way that it's laid out. Like they give you, there's some trade-off because they do give you more opportunities to take more damage.
Yeah.
So, and you're not as negatively degraded as you are in the subsequent ones or the previous ones.
Yeah.
So like for instance, say you've got power up and then you get hit. Okay, in the Japanese version you go to small. But now in this one, if you get hit, you don't get small until you're down to your last one. So gives you some opportunity. So I mean, even though the pickup situation's a little more shady and a little more difficult, and it's not as clear and accessible as the other version, it's still there. It's just being done in a different way.
Finally, for this episode, Independence Day. Phenomenal movie that still holds up to this day. This is me and Greg going through the final scenes of the movie and how it shipped up and what to expect in a rah-rah summer blockbuster. The way it was explained in the movie... See, this plotline is wrong when it talks about it. The way it was explained in the movie is they used Morse code because it couldn't be decoded by the aliens.
Right.
It was a nice, simple, you know, way of getting everything off by using an out-of-date language that...
We do it old school, yeah.
That the aliens wouldn't have a chance to decipher. That it wasn't digital. Because that was the aliens' mistake, is everything's digitalized. They have digital weapons, digital shields, you know. Now, President Whitmore signing up to be an aircraft fighter. You know what that's in reference to? medieval kings.
Oh yeah. Like
Because
that's how it used to be.
The medieval kings would be on the front line and lead their troops into battle. Now I understand that in the narrative of the movie, he's an ex-fighter pilot, and this is his this is what he knows. If I can do anything, I can go to the sky and clean up. But it also gives the best presidential movie speech in history.
Oh, it's perfect. It's like he basically says how like 4th of July is like an Earth holiday now, dudes.
Yeah.
Like, let's go out there and kick some ass. And yeah, it was it was very Kennedy-esque.
Yep.
I would argue he reminded me of Kennedy. He has the way it's set up. It's a very similar background, age. So someone late 30s, early 40s. And that's extremely youthful for president.
Yeah. The youngest president, 42, Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah.
So they're saying that Whitmore was around 45 when he became president, and about 47 now.
Still very young. Compared to our current president is twice as old as him. So
yeah, and the other guy is the same age, minus 2 years. So you got between old and old.
Yep, pick one. Yep.
Yeah. What did Lewis Black say when this election? You stuck with 2 bowls of shit. The only difference is the smell.
Just pick the one that's the least worst to you.
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and that extra too, who did the salute.
Yeah,
I'm surprised he didn't rip his rotator cuff doing that salute, because it was so
crisp.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he just went for it.
Well, there were 2 things that they kept in the movie from that scene. Like when he first speaks into the control, he says good morning, stops for a second, turns the thing around and says good morning, and then comes at the thing. That was a mistake. He picked the wrong side up, but he acted through it, and it
they just kept it.
It added to the
authenticity
to the whole,
of it.
Yeah, and the cheering in the long shot, because they did the long shot first of everybody listening to speech for the first time. That got a round of applause from all the extras. So that cheering, hooping, and hollering was not scripted. I mean, they weren't expecting it to be very, very quiet and like, you hear the president, let's go. But the cheering and everything like that is because it was such a good speech. And you were right, it was based on speeches done by Kennedy.
Yeah, he had a very not so mind the way
not
he
so
talked,
mind,
but the way that he used dynamics and stuff like that, and the way he phrased a lot of things, it reminded me a lot of it.
We will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight.
Yes,
love that speech.
It's a good one. It's very. Good.
Even had us in the UK like celebrating that, like woo. That was a good one, man. Oh, wait. So, Hitler and Leveson get in the ship and finally implant the virus. Now, what's funny about that is the fact that they get in the ship and he's got like a little sticky note which says the directions in which to fly the plane. So he goes forward and they crash backwards. He's like, oops.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Flip it around.
What do you mean, oops? Can we do that again without the oops, please? And... So when they get to the mothership, he's like, oh, good, they're taking us in. I was exactly counting on this. When were you going to tell me? Oops. We got to work on our communication, man. I just love that bit. Well, that bit was improvised. All the lines that Jeff Goldblum and Will Smith did, they were improvised. Huh. So, a bit of Bill Murray going on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, as President Whitmore leads the American fighter checks against the alien destroyer approaching Area 51, the aliens lack shields, but the squadron's supply of missile quickly exhausted against the size of the craft and the complement of assault ships. As the underside of the alien craft opens to direct its energy to press fire on the base, the President fires a missile at the cannon, but it connects and explodes with a large protective hatch. Just as the squadron is informed that all their missiles have been fired, Russell Case radios in. Now, I didn't mention the fact that, okay. So, they're asking for volunteer pilots. And they said, look, we're not gonna kid you, this is gonna be a very, very difficult thing to do. What's your flying experience? Well, I flew over Nam, and then I got into crop dusting, and I've been doing that ever since. on a personal note, I want revenge on these aliens who kidnapped me and did experiments on me 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've had 15 mile spaceships, the mothership. You've been in the briefings with the president. You killed an actual alien with a gun.
And we're still ridiculing the guy for talking about his experience. They're still like, ha ha, you're crazy talking. Oh.
The alien ship is coming.
Literal evidence. Look.
You can see it.
That's what, if I were him, I would have been pointing to the sky going, I'm not crazy. Look at them.
Yeah.
There's the aliens right there. There's the ones. There they are.
So Russell Case comes by and Stats is about to shoot his laser. Not his laser, his missile.
Right.
And it jams. And you think at that moment, all hope is lost.
You get a short window.
And Russell Case, crazy Russell Case, decides that he's going to sacrifice himself for the good of humanity. And flies his plane into the alien mothership's weapon. Not mothership, the alien ship's weapon. Which causes a chain reaction that blows the ship up.
Boom.
He did it. The son of a bitch did it. And they're all cheering and happy. And his son's just standing there like... Now, it turns out it's not his son, that's his stepson. But that's another bit that was cut out the movie and was inserted into the extra long version of the movie that was recut. So yeah, it's not his family, it's his wife, it's his dead wife's family.
Okay.
So...
All right. It's just like family.
Yeah. But they don't respect him because he's a drunk and all that stuff.
Sure.
So
that's understandable.
After they figure out human resistance forces around the world use the same weak point to destroy the remainder of the alien ships, and they all go down. While on the mothership, Hilder's unable to disconnect from a docking clamp. Knowing that they need to still fire the nuke, the two smoke their victory cigars and thank each other for their efforts. They launch the nuke that penetrates a nearby control center where the ship is suddenly free, and he fiercely pilots it to the portal which they entered, narrowly escaping when the doors close.
Oh, that's the best part of the movie, I thought. So
Must go faster. Must go faster. Quit side seat driving.
He's like, what do you think I'm doing? He's like telling him where to go. He's like, bridge, tunnel, door, go,
I see what I'm doing. And perhaps my favorite line in the whole movie is as they finally fly out of the ship, Elvis has left the building.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much.
That's an old person reference right there.
That's it for our look in the past. I want to thank sincerely Sarah, Tara Johnson, who was on our Jurassic Park episode, the Kid, who's done a couple of episodes with us, Gregory, Dexter, Duran, and Ben Tynan of the Holodecks, who've done episodes with us. Gregg also has been a frequent contributor and researcher for us, and I couldn't have done a lot of these episodes without him. Dexter and Ben do the Super Weird podcast, and it's very, very good to have them on as well when they came on. I want to thank Amanda Morrison, Nian Fieldler, Luke Elden, and Molly Watson for their contributions to the earlier episodes. I really appreciate everybody who's taken a part of this. I want to thank everybody who has spoken in our skits. I can't remember everybody off the top of my head. I know some of the earlier episodes had a bunch of skits, and we had people talking on them. I know, we had the annoying teen and so on and so forth, which is my daughter Tara. She did the Jurassic Park episode. If you haven't listened to that, go ahead and listen to it. It's a really, really good episode. And yeah, that is it. So I've got a couple of questions for you. What was your favorite moment or favorite episode of this podcast? For me, I think the three episodes that I always go to when I think of this podcast and when I do things are the Lion King episode with the Super Weird guys, because of the whole session. It was a fun afternoon for me. I lost the plot completely. The Clueless episode that I did with Sarah back in season 4 or 5 that I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning with no research and had to record something and put something out by the Sunday, and I managed to get the research done and the recording done in a morning. So I really, really like that episode. And the Groundhog Day episode, because Groundhog Day is a fantastic movie. And, of course, we get to talk about my flub of the century that I'll never live down by calling Phil Collins all the way through. And I thank Gregg for correcting me finally when either he noticed or was tired of me getting it wrong. So that is it for episode 100. What does the future hold? Well, full steam ahead. We will be back next Sunday. What will we be talking about? Well, this podcast, as you know, has 2 patron saints. The patron saint for the males is Jim Carrey. Next week, we talk about the classic Hole album, Live Through This. Now, this is going to be an explicit episode because some of the songs are really, really dark and really, really heavy, and I don't want, people to be caught unawares. So, we're dealing with Courtney Love, too. I mean, Courtney Love is Courtney Love, and a lot of controversy, a very, very polarizing figure, and shoots from the hip when she talks. So some of the quotes and some of the subjects are not appropriate, but I'd be doing the album a disservice if I didn't talk about it like that. So that's going to be an explicit episode. I'm going to be joined by Sarah to talk about that. And with that in mind, go check out becausemaybepodcast.com. If you liked what you heard, some of our episodes, our full archive is on the website. Go check out Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or X, and look us up. That's where you find all of this news and what's happenings. And if you don't listen to this on your if you listen to this on a podcast service that you don't normally listen to podcasts on, so for example, you're an Apple Podcast person and you somehow are on Spotify listening to this, we are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podchaser, Pandora, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Podbean, or Amazon Music. Okay. And that's it. I've got nothing else to say. Aside from the fact that I'm really glad that I took this trip down memory lane. I'm really, really happy with it. And I will see you next week. Take it easy, everybody. Bye.